Roy Evans of the Jericho Broadcast Networks, and I am here with Mr. Darren Reed, who is the Senior Vice President of Stride Professional Development. Darren, how you doing today?
I'm doing well, Roy. Glad to be here.
All right, well, thanks. So let's start off by telling the folks a little bit about what Stride Professional Development is.
Yeah, absolutely. Stride is the nation's leading provider of online education in the K through 12 space. We were formerly known as K-12 Inc. and are over 2 decades in the space of providing free virtual online education across the nation to students, no matter where they are. We've since changed our name to Stride because we've done expanded beyond the K-12 space, though that's still very much what we do as a priority. What we've also done with the Stride Professional Development Center is we've leveraged some of our expertise over the past 2+ decades of supporting schools and students and educators, teachers, principals, and we are trying to innovate, the way professional development happens for educators, and that we're doing that through the Stride Professional Development Center. Gone are the days where it's face-to-face only PD. It's episodic professional development. It's professional development that's not necessarily relevant to what teachers and educators need right away. So the Professional Development Center is designed to solve that challenge with some unique, innovative ways of delivering content.
All right, man. Well, listen, we are super excited here at the network to be engaged with you all and helping to provide this opportunity for teachers all across the country, and especially those teachers that are coming from our HBCU backgrounds, because we know that education was always one of the stalwarts of most HBCUs in this country. They all had teaching programs, and that's what a lot of them were founded for. So, Darren, let's talk a little bit about those special programs that you guys have for the teacher.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, Roy, you hit on the very important point. Right now in our country, we're facing probably one of the greatest challenges, of our teaching corps that we have in many, many years. And that's around this teacher shortage. A lot of teachers are exiting the profession. Just based on tenure, they're retiring and moving on, and then you have, our existing teachers who are being taxed and stressed, particularly post-COVID with, increasing demands, challenges that they're facing in the classroom, and a host of other issues that they struggle with. And we need good teachers, and we need to support the teachers that we have. So the two things that we're doing is that we know first-year teachers, among all teachers, are among the first to leave the profession within the first 5 years. I think they do at a 44% rate, which is just scary to think that folks are, graduated, want to go in the classroom and make a difference, but, feel like they need to leave within the first 5 years because it's so challenging. So we want to support them. Obviously, as a new teacher, your school that you work, where you work your first year, the district where you work, there will be some professional development support to assist you. But we want to go a step further. We want to help every teacher in the country get off to a strong start to their first year and have some stick-to-itiveness, to help them get through that first year. So we're offering a year free access to the Stride Professional Development Center. It's a ever-growing online database of courses that will help them in a variety of different ways. Classroom management, targeted instruction, and a host of other things. And the content will continuously grow. Again, it's just another resource that allows them to sharpen their practice, to feel like they're supported, because the research says that teachers are leaving in large part because they don't feel like they get enough professional support. So we really hope that helps new teachers. So again, this is for any new teacher who just graduated in the country. All you have to do is go to our site and sign on using the Teachers Win discount at checkout. Also, we have another campaign where during Teacher Appreciation Week, we gifted all teachers in the country, no matter where you are, 6 months free Professional Development Center access. But we're doing a special thing through our partnership with the BCSN and our HBCU graduates, and also the schools that you work with. We want any teacher in the country who through our partnership gets access to the Professional Development Center, and they get 6 months free using the BCSN 23 passcode at checkout. Again, our goal is to support and get as many teachers on the site feeling supported, to really help, them succeed and have some success, not only for them, but obviously for our kids and the communities they serve. So.
Most definitely. And Darren, listen, we are super excited again to be a part of this. My mother was a teacher. My aunt was a teacher. I have my best friend is a teacher. So we
Absolutely.
understand. I've worked in the school system for years. So I understand the resources that are needed. I understand why a lot of these teachers do take the time and they sit there, and after going through college, they're like, you know what, let's do something different.
Yeah.
So we're happy to be a part of this to help you guys change that. So ladies and gentlemen, here's all you guys need to do. All you need to do is take a look and go to the link that's right below us right now and see what you're going to do. You're going to see 2 links on the page now, just to make sure. The top one takes you to their professional development page, homepage, that'll let you know about some of the things that are happening there and the things that you have access to. Go to the second link that says Teacher Appreciation. That'll take you directly to the content page where you can sign up and get your free year if you're a new teacher, and your free 6 months if you're an existing teacher. Let's show them how we utilize resources, and we make sure that we take time, those folks who are HBCU alum, and use this. And let's see what Stride has to offer. We're excited about it. We know you will be too. Darren, is there anything else that you'd like to say to the folks?
No, I mean, just, as a teacher myself, and understanding the need, and of course with the diversity that's needed in our teaching corps across the country, I know our HBCU teacher graduates are just exactly what we need in our community. So I really encourage them, and just glad to be doing this partnership with you all.
All right. Well, folks, there you go again. Mr. Darren Reed, Senior Vice President of Stride Professional Development Learning. We will be seeing you guys, and trust me, you'll be seeing more from their partnership with us as we move forward, always trying to do our best to make sure that we move forward with the community. Take care.
Thank you.
Yeah. I love my HBCU. And boy, I love it, love it. I love it, love it. I love my HBCU. And man, I hope my team they won. I hope my team they won. Yeah, man. I hope my team they won. I hope my team they won. I tune into the HBCU Sports Lab to see if my team won or lost. If they lost, I'm quiet as a mouse. But if they won, keep tab. I'ma do the dab, yeah. Dr. Cavil, he know what he be talking about. Mike and Charles, they know what they be talking about. They compress the analytic data with the hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they won or lost, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Welcome to episode 427, Inside the HBCU Sports Lab radio show and podcast. The show that's covering the sporting HBCU dash for all things HBCU sports, from institutions large and small, from the NEIA to the NCAA. We share insights and information on the HBCU sports culture in the business of HBCU sports. We just call it HBCU sports pedagogy. I'm your host, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, along with my co-host, Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. We're filming from our home studios and sending a signal live. KCOH 1230 AM studios with the Texas Radio Hall of Famer, multi-Hall of Famer Ralph Cooper in the beautiful home of Texas Southern University. Mike, how you doing today?
Oh, man, just great. Had a great weekend of football. Some dramatic finishes, dramatic plays, dramatic games. Nice, relaxing weekend by the poolside with lots of beverages that we partook. So I'll leave it at that. But other than that, ready to go into week 2 and talk about, well, at least cuss and discuss what happened in week 1.
Hey, don't put all sundry on me. All I had was the fruit. Fruit cocktail. Yeah. Whatever. I don't know. What they say? You look like you got a nice little suntan. I see you, Charles. How you doing? And
I'm doing well.
On calling your first game, big time up.
Appreciate that.
Labor Day Classic. Boy, you got your money's worth on that.
Did I ever? I got my money's worth and then some. I mean, 37-34 overtime win. It was tremendous to be on the call with Charles Porter. Enjoyed every minute of it. Looking forward to the upcoming season calling Prairie View A&M football.
I don't know whether to be nervous that the game was that close or be excited for you in the fact that it's your call to help us pull it off. So
I like to think I got a little something with that. Maybe I'm bringing a little good luck. Maybe it might be something.
CB wearing his inner leprechaun.
Right.
Well, it sure did go well for those PD Panthers out there. Other side of Texas Southern, now it's 9, boy. I know they just like, man, we can't get right. With that being said, we do have some somber note. Those that are following SWAC baseball, remember the years of Doug Shanks, former Mississippi Valley State baseball coach, has died. Former Mississippi Valley baseball coach, the school announced that he had passed. Quote, sadly, the family of MVSU grieves the loss of former longtime head baseball coach and Hall of Fame inductee, Doug Shanks. Mississippi Valley State said in a post Twitter, formerly known now as X, quote, Shanks coached from 2000 to 2014, won more than 250 games, produced professional athletes, and had multiple winning seasons. Condolences to the Shanks family, end quote. I had forgot that he had coached that long. I certainly remember his years where he really got it done during the regular season, and a lot of it rebuilt the Valley baseball program in regards to having some meaningful chances, particularly during the year and in some postseason play. 2000 to 2014. Charles, what are your thoughts on this in terms of your connections in Jackson, Mississippi?
Yeah, Coach Shanks was very well known, especially around the Jackson area with regards to baseball. Some phenomenal summer league teams. Everybody wanted to play for his summer league team. Growing up, I was a baseball player there at Jackson. There were coaches that you wanted to play for, and Doug Shanks was one of them. D.M. Howie, another Mississippi Hall of Famer, was another individual who was a baseball coach at high school Northwest Rankin. But these guys had a tremendous impact on the Jackson baseball community. So definitely want to pass along condolences to the Doug Shanks family.
Yep, he led Mississippi Valley to a program record 35 wins in 2004, and the Delta Devils won at least 20 games in 5 seasons during Shanks' tenure. He retired in 2014, quote, coming from him before he passed during his time at Valley at the end of that tenure. He was quoted saying, "That's what I'm most proud of," end quote, said Shanks at the time. Quote, "I got a chance to see these kids get their degrees and become not only good athletes, but good people," end quote. So let's take a moment of silence for Coach Shanks. Mike, let me come back to you and get some hot news takes that you want to share out there with everybody.
See what's hot on the grill today. Besides the meat we ate this weekend. So a lot of you have seen on social media or other places where Mississippi Valley is kind of going in on the Chicago football games as a worst experience. I think either HBCU Sports or Game Day has it. I saw it across in a couple of Twitter as well. So they left the Mississippi Valley, that is Mississippi Valley State, left the Classic kind of with kind of a sour a taste in their mouth, according to Coach Kendrick Wade. So during the conferences, and some of the issues that he cited was the logistical issues, lodging, communication issues that really didn't play very well. So it even seemed to get a little personal, and he's been, I think he said he's been coaching 13 or 14 years, and it was probably the worst experience of his life. That's serious when you say that. So needless to say, the Classic, a not-for-profit organization, of course, it provides support for programs and initiatives, and you hate to see that, but that's kind of news of the day. I'm sure there's many sides to this, that you could say, it returned since either 2018 or 2019, as Central State defeated Mississippi Valley 24-21 on this past Saturday in Chicago, home of the Bears, Soldier Field. So a lot of blame going around, a lot of, this wasn't right, this wasn't right. It's just an unfortunate experience.
Yeah, that's for sure. I was on the call this morning, and I had heard some whispers previously into this case. So I just asked him his thoughts on the Classic. And when I got finished with that, I was like, got a good soundbite on that one. Coach Wade, and I had to thank him for being so candid. And I followed it up with another matchup in terms of D2 going to FCS going to D2, and he really gave some good thoughts on that as well. So Coach Wade is going to be one to watch as he builds that program and certainly provide his thoughts on what took place. And he didn't back off. He said, this is not an excuse on the loss. That was on us. He kept going. Charles, what news you want to share?
Well, it's just some thoughts on the weekend. I mean, you take a look at we had some phenomenal matchups. I mean, I kind of took a breath today and just kind of like, whew, okay, week one, and you just think about FAMU dominating Jackson State in the Orange Blossom Classic. You got upsets with Virginia State over Norfolk. You had Morgan State. Not a lot of people weren't talking about the Morgan State game, but Morgan State over Richmond, I think that was a big one. Of course, Prairie View, they won 9 in a row. So, just kind of took a step back today and just kind of breathed in all that happened this past week. And it's like we're right back into week 2 already.
That's going to be perfect because next up is our mid-major poll rankings. But before we go to that, I did want to share Wells Fargo expands HBCU outreach by sponsoring football classics. This comes courtesy of HBCU Game Day. Wells Fargo will serve as an official banking sponsor for the following games, Brick City HBCU kickoff class. Remember that? This past weekend featured Hampton and Grambling, Orange Blossom Classic, Jackson State and FAMU. That was this past Sunday. HBCU New York Classic, which is Morehouse College in Albany State. Florida A&M Homecoming, FAMU and Prairie View. So hopefully we get to check out that. Florida Blue Cross, Blue Shield, Florida Classic, FAMU and Bethune-Cookman. Bayou Classic, Southern University A&M College, as you know, and Grambling State. Looks like the promoters might need to reach out to Wells Fargo and see if they can get a little extra funds to help them in regards to some of the things. Or maybe it's not a funny thing. Maybe it's more logistics, and they can look at some consultants to help them on that side of it. But thought it was fascinating where Fargo continues to do their work. With that said, let's get in our first break. We'll come back on the other side, and we'll give you the mid-major rankings. New version. We're going with just the top 7 as we continue to break it down as we did preseason. We did all 21, but we did 7 at a time. So the top 7, we're going to continue with that format, give you the top 7 mid-major programs in week number 1. Stick with us after this first break.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
You see, Head & Shoulders has scalp shield technology, protects against flakes even between washes. It's never not working.
Kind of like us. We're never not working. Number 15?
That's my rub.
Ooh, nice.
Never not working.
Never, ever, never, ever not working.
Welcome everybody to Juneau, Alaska.
I don't like this one.
Me neither.
Let's get out of here.
Dandruff protection that's never not working. Head & Shoulders scalp shield technology.
You're looking for the latest information on Southern University sports, the Southwestern Athletic Conference, and HBCU athletics. There's only one place to go. Tune in to the Carlos Brown Show, exclusively on the Black College Sports Network.
Compress the analytic data with your hip-hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they want a lot, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, because he gonna teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike and Charles. Charles, you alluded to all the ball games, which you mean it's time for the rankings. Week number 1, it's time for the rankings. We're gonna give you top 7. Let me tell you this first. There were some teams that dropped out into these polls as we start to give it to you in terms of these top 7. We're going to look at Fayetteville State Broncos 0-1. They dropped out of poll this week.
On the Black College Sports.
Fort Valley State Wildcats also 0-1. They dropped out of the top 7 in week number 1. And Langston Lions as they open in week 0, they dropped out as well in terms of being 0-1. Receiving votes before we get in that top 7 are Kentucky State Thoroughbreds, 1-0, 120 points. On the outside looking in, along with them, are Miles Golden Bears. Although they're 1-0, they 109 points, couldn't crank the top 7. Bluefield State Big Blue, 1-0, 108 points, are not in the top 7. Florida Memorial Lions, 1-1, but not in the top 7. That lets you know how tough it is to get in the top 7 in the mid-majors. You have teams that jumped out of there and have won a game, but they're not in the top 7. So let's give it to you. At number 7, we have Central State Matadors. They're 1-0, 125 points, as they are in number 7. They were not ranked in week preseason, but in week number 1, they're in there when you look at number 7, the Kentucky State Thoroughbreds. At number 6, you have Central State Matadors continue to win and get it done. They were also not ranked, as they continue to have a big weekend, 141 points. Let's get in number 5 as the Matadors continue to run. Tuskegee Golden Tigers. They held on.
They held on
in the mix. They climbed the poll 1 ranking as they came in preseason number 6 and got it done 1-0. That was not a conference game, so as a non-conference game, they are 1-0 on the season. Bringing us to number 4. Number 4 is none other than the Virginia State Trojans with the big FCS win, CIAA over the MEAC. Got it done in fashion. Looked a little scary at the end. Thought they had won it, played around, but found a way to get it done. Is they beat Norfolk State, 139 points. They were ranked, not ranked, but now they're in the top 5. Let's get into number 3. Bowie State Bulldogs. Bulldogs returned in form fashion. They also wanted a piece of the MEAC, so they defeated Delaware State as they 1-0, 163 points. They jump into the poll rankings this week, previous number 7, so they climb 4 spots as they push in the top level here. Bring us to number 2. This should not be a surprise to anyone in terms of this season. Some people may get an argument, though. They are number 2, the Virginia Union Panthers. 1-0 on the season. Big win over the SIAC as they trounced that with 3 first-place votes, 103 points. They are ranked at number 2. Preseason number 2, they stay there. At number 1, Benedict Tigers, 1-0. They also had a matchup in terms of the sister conference CIAA, but they reversed the trends that Virginia Union was able to do in terms of they got a win for the SIAC, 1-0 in terms of what takes place there. 6th place, 1st place votes, 186 total points. Remain at number 1. I do want to give a shout out to number 6, Central State, as they also got into some of that FCS as they got a win over SWAC, Mississippi Valley State, in that classic that we talked about earlier. So those are your top 7. Let me go to you, Charles. What are your thoughts in terms of the top 7 programs this week in week number 1?
Very impressive. Central State jumping in, get the big win over Mississippi Valley to get the SIAC victory over the SWAC. But I'm already taking a look at this Virginia State, Virginia Union. When this matchup happens, I'm already sitting back like, oh boy, this is going to be a ground chuck game. I mean, week 1, Jada Byers goes for 25 carries, 149 yards, 3 touchdowns. But Upton Bailey for Virginia State, 18 carries, 184 yards against Norfolk State. That was impressive. So I'm already kind of salivating for this Virginia State, Virginia Union matchup whenever it happens, because you're probably going to get 2 of the best backs in the CIAA in that one.
Man, I think he averaged over 10 yards a carry in that matchup.
Yeah.
It's like, how do you average a first down on each of your carries? That's getting it done.
They couldn't stop him.
Mike, since Charles rose up the flag first week in mid-major, he says, I'm doing well. What are your thoughts?
Nah.
Any problems this week?
Nah, you ain't doing well. Central State, I will say, is very impressive. But that Virginia, I mean, if you look at impressive win, Benedict, Yes, they won. They had the most points. They played Shaw. Me, you, my grandmother, and a couple of cousins could probably line up and play well against Shaw. They beat them 52 to So, yeah, you could say Benedict's number one. But I rank the Bowie State, Virginia State, and arguably maybe Virginia Union a little bit higher than the Benedict. I would also say Tuskegee should be up in that top four with the way, because I surely expected Fort Valley to win. Tuskegee held on and showed me and the rest of the world something. So I rearranged that order a little bit, because I don't know if you were looking at strength of, head to head, strength of schedule, how they did last year. But if you're looking at impressive wins, that Virginia State, that Bowie State, those wins were impressive.
Well, the Golden Tigers got over in this one. They got over.
They did.
I don't know how you plan to prevent and a receiver gets behind the safety. I can never, ever figure
I don't either.
But hey, they did have 6 goal line stops. They got
you know what? I
gave them 2 extra.
They did. Give it to them. Their defense did buckle, but they didn't break.
They didn't break. Good job. They didn't break.
Perfect time, too. But, Mike, why are you starting up already? Week number one.
Because I'm Big Mike, and I just like to do that. Like, what?
Charles, you see this? You see this? See what I'm having?
Yeah.
We gonna do this whole
all season. All season.
That's all right. We in the second half of the show, we're gonna do the major division. Maybe I get a little more love there. With that being said, let's go to our second break. We'll come back on the other side, and we'll give you some of those key mid-major matchups of the week to keep on your mind. Stick with us. Be right back after this second break.
T. Madden and Associates is a sophisticated and experienced law firm located in your neighborhood. We're turning injury to cash.
T. Madden and Associates obtained almost $2 million for my injury. They turned my injury to cash.
Now, we can't guarantee how much your injury is worth, but we've recovered millions for our clients.
Call T. Madden and Associates at 833-PAID-123. That's 833-PAID-123.
When it comes to professional learning, teachers deserve better. From the leader in online learning, Stride brings you the Stride Professional Development Center, an on-demand library of mobile-friendly courses that gives teachers choice and flexibility, allowing them to learn anytime and anywhere. Our dynamic courses provide bite-sized learning and help educators advance their knowledge while also gaining professional development hours. It's time you take charge of your learning. Visit us today to get started.
Press the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna law, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Mills inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop. Mike still think it's Labor Day weekend. With that being said, let's get into these HBCU mid-major classic games of the week. We're going to start out with our classic as we do on Tuesdays. What is the HBCU mid-major classic game of the week? In this case, it's actually a conference matchup. Now, these teams have not been doing very well over this start of the season, but some of that is just because of matchups, and we'll see what that looks like in terms as we go forward. We have none other than Rocky Mount, North Carolina, Rocky Mount Sports Complex. Down East Viking Football Classic, CIAA matchup Saturday, September 9th. High noon is the place to be. Number 28, if you look at the total rankings of the strength of schedules, how I have them in my ranking is Elizabeth City State Vikings. 0-1 to start the season, but somebody's going to get a win here because they face off number 25, St. Augustine Falcons 0-1. So these two ranked teams are unranked in terms of the top 7. But it's fascinating to see what's going on in terms of this matchup. Let me go to you, Mike. What are your thoughts in terms of the Down East Viking Football Classic out of the CIAA?
No, I think it's easier, but I think you have two teams that have been, last couple of years have been battling from the bottom. If I had to give, one the edge, I think you have almost an evenly matched game, but I would have to give the edge to maybe Elizabeth City. If you look at how they started, came out of the blocks. But I think you have an evenly matched team. Looking how many yards each team was able to put up. They both had losses. Evenly matched, should be a good game, but I have to give the edge to Elizabeth City.
You're going with the Vikings to find a way to get their first win of the season. Charles, in terms of your mindset, are you going to stick with the Vikings like Mike, or are you going in a different direction? Can Falcons finally get over the hill and get it done this weekend?
I'm going to stick with the Vikings, and it's very interesting in this first game, this loss to Catawba. Tough loss, but you take a look at the turnovers in that game, 4 interceptions in that game. They lost to Catawba 31-23. You take out the turnovers, and maybe things could turn out a little bit different. Freshman quarterback starting for Elizabeth City, 4 interceptions in his first outing. So tough opener, but you take a look at this matchup with St. Aug. They won 5 out of the last 6 in terms of playing St. Augustine. So I'm going to go with the home team in this one, go with Elizabeth City.
With that being said, we're going to switch over. Since y'all both talking about Elizabeth City will get their first victory of the season, we're going to go into the independent non-conference mid-major division game of the week. We're going to show some love. You don't hear us talking much about this team, which I don't know. That's all our fault. I mean, I have at the bottom in terms of mid-major programs, so loaded to number 27. But it is the Lincoln, Missouri Tigers. They switched conferences, independent program, if you would, but they're playing now in the MIAA, a little more conference that maybe they can change their luck in terms of what they've had in the past years conference play. And they're at home. This is in Jefferson City, Missouri, the White T. Reed Stadium. 6 o'clock even kickoff under the lights, September 9th, as you know. Missouri Western Griffins come and visit. They're 0-1, and they face Lincoln, Missouri Tigers that had a tougher last week as 0-1 on the season. Charles, starting with you, what are your matchup in terms of Lincoln, Missouri? The Tigers up there used to be a proud program. They moved from NIA Division II, been there for a while, switched conferences. They have a little bit of stead. Can they get a victory this week?
Can they get a victory? I think it's possible they can get a victory. One of the interesting things that I take a look at with Lincoln coming into this game, stat that jumped out at me, they rushed for 237 yards in their opener. Big loss. Things kind of got away from them there in the second quarter, but they were right there in control of the game in the first half until looks like things kind of went sideways there toward the end of the first half. But again, team that rushed for 237 yards, Xavier Vaughn, he rushed for 124 yards. And then you had LaMarcus Yates and DeJuan Lomax that added 64 and 50 in that game. So a team that's rushing for 6.4 yards per carry, I kind of like that. It means they're blocking up front a little bit there. So they get a little bit of defense, they can pull off the win.
You're right. They can run the rock and pull up some defense. They can get it done. Mike, what direction are you going in terms of this conference matchup between the HBCU and the historically white college, Missouri Western Griffins, and the Lincoln, Missouri Tigers?
Remind me, did Missouri Western win their first game?
No, they're 0-1 as well.
They're 0-1. And does anybody know how many yards they had? Because it wasn't a lot.
They struggled.
So my point is they struggled against Central Missouri. So I mean, if you look at their offense, I mean they struggled. I think they struggled to put up maybe 150 yards or so. They were able to score. There was a lot of turnovers, as CB mentioned with the other game. But I got a funny feeling and a sneaky suspicion on this one. I got a feeling that come on, Cosby. I know, right? For those of you that know Pastor, I got a funny feeling and a sneaky suspicion that Lincoln did have a strong running game. I didn't see much defense from the Missouri Western results that I took a look at last night and this morning. So My funny feeling and sneaky suspicion says Lincoln will pull this one out.
I love it. I love it.
Little Wheeler Avenue. Little Wheeler Avenue in the lab today.
You like that? Go ahead, Pastor Cosby.
Go ahead, Pastor Cosby.
Oh, good stuff. Good stuff. Along with that silent Edward McMorris, he must like the intro song. He said PV didn't suffer a loss, so I won't be quiet as a mouse this weekend. I love it. I love it. Lab listeners, give it to it. Let's get in there. Great dialogue, great conversation. We're going to get into break number 3. We'll come back on the other side, and it's time for the major division. We'll see what they say about the major division in our poll rankings in week number 1. Stick with us. We'll be right back after this third break.
2002, Empowerment Resources, Inc., a nonprofit organization, has empowered more than 1,500 youth and adults in Duval and surrounding counties through its programs Journey into Womanhood, Girls Mentoring, Life Skills for Teens, and parenting education coaching. To get involved with programs, volunteer, or donate, visit www.empowermentresourcesinc.org. Follow us on social media, facebook.com/empowerment.resources and instagram.com/empowermentjax.
Charmin Ultra Soft has so much cushiony softness, it's hard for your family to remember they can use less.
Sweet pillows of softness.
This is soft. Holy Charmin. Oh, excuse me. Roll it back, everybody. Sorry.
Charmin Ultra Soft is so cushiony soft, you'll want more, but it's so absorbent, you can use less, so it's always worth it.
Now, what did we learn about using less?
You gotta roll it back, everybody. We all go. Why not enjoy the go with Charmin?
At CDW, we get speed as the new currency of success.
Our team spends way too much time tending to outdated applications and software when they should be focused on driving application agility and innovation.
CDW Amplified Development Services modernizes software and application development to help accelerate innovation and digital transformation.
So you mean building new applications, UI, and mobile interfaces?
Well, you said you needed to innovate more quickly.
Oh, so he's a listener.
To do more at scale, trust CDW Amplified Development Services.
Compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna loud and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil inside the HBCU Sports Lab. We're back with Professor Bishop, Professor Washington. Shout out, as Brandon King says, what's up, Dean and Props and the HBCU family? I'm a little late this week. I can't say too much this week after Saturday. Hey, man, it was Notre Dame. It wasn't about the game. We got to see touchdowns. The game that you need to be worried about is them golden lines. You can't get it done in this Southern Heritage Classic. And the Lions look like they got a little offense. They can run the ball. Solid on defense. We'll see. Don't sleep on them. We'll see what it looks like this week. But let's get into the top 7 and see how things are changing. Let's talk about those teams that dropped out. Dropping out of the top 7 this week, going into the preseason. These are teams that didn't get it done this past weekend. Some of it was scheduling. Some of it just didn't get it done. Dropping out. We had 4 teams that fell out of the top 7. Didn't do much in preseason. We'll see if it changes over the season. But my educated analytics and guests were not quite on in week 1. Alcorn State Braves fall out after a tough loss. Howard Bison fall out. They were game ready, but they lost. Alabama A&M Bulldogs, they're playing another one of those Power 5 teams out of the SEC. Vanderbilt held their own early, but it got away from them. Then you have the Southern Jaguars. They had a SWAC non-conference matchup on the road. Played great defense, but not so much on the offensive side. Big matchup this weekend. We'll talk about that a little later, but Southern Jaguars lost. Meaning we get into the top 7. Let's see what's going on in the top 7, starting with none other than number 7, drum roll, the Jackson State Tigers. 1-1 on season, 0-1, 157 points that dropped from previous being ranked 4. After a big win in week 0, they had a conference matchup, and FAMU Rattlers finally got over the hill, which means Jackson State will not continue to have those conference wins that were adding up over 2 years. They were undefeated, and somebody finally said, all right, Tigers, not so fast. At number 6, Hampton Pirates, 1-0, 166 points. They took out some Tigers themselves, but there was the Graham State Tigers. They were not ranked last week, but they vaulted into the top 7 at number 6. Kudos to the Pirates. Bringing us to number 5, Alabama State Hornets, 1-0, 185 points. They were not ranked. We talked about Southern dropping out. Well, the team that Southern lost to was none other than this Alabama State Hornets team. They were able to play significant defense and looked like they didn't drop off any from last year. Offense, they had 2 big touchdowns and was enough to get them the victory. Bringing us to number 4, Prairie View A&M Panthers, 1-0, also 1-0 in the conference race as they get a win over Labor Day Classic, come back. They were down 34-17 in the 4th. Charles made a couple of calls and did what he had to do. They scoring a touchdown at the end of the game, getting it done in overtime as they kicked the game-winning field goal in overtime to set the season up right, send the Tigers home for the 9th straight loss to the Panthers. Prairie View right now has the magic stick. With that being said, let's get to number 3, top 3 program. Morgan State Bears, 1-0. Probably had one of the most impressive wins this week, not just because it was a historic white college. I know some of y'all get hung up over that, but this team was ranked top 25 in terms of FCS rankings. They go on the road against Richmond, win, and get it done, 204 points. They were not ranked. These 4 teams were not ranked. We just talked about, but they jumped into the ranking. Everybody said quietly, watch out for Morgan State. Some people were saying there's some question mark quarterback play, defense under Antoine Sewell, formerly of Prairie View. I know he's Bowie State Bulldog, but we claim he brought us a championship defensive back coach and has run them up with coach down there getting it done. Bowie State looks like they're up to their old ways at Morgan State as they rebuilding this program, 2nd year, impressive win. Bringing us number 2, Florida A&M Rattlers. Coach Simmons said enough is enough. They get it done, 1-0 conference play. They were ranked number 2, 220 points. They stay there. Bringing us to number 1, North Carolina Central Eagles. I got corrected by Stephen Gaither. Gaither said they are not old school. They are not the little brothers of North Carolina Central. All I will say is they took them to the woodshed. Let's put it that way. 1-0, 11 first place votes, 231 points, number 1 ranking. North Carolina Central plays another rivalry. This time they're on equal footing, FCS program. We'll talk about that as well, but that's what we have this week. Let me say this. Those teams receiving votes, though, are Howard Bison, 0-1, but they had a good matchup, 148 points. Alcorn State Braves, also 0-1. They stay in the mix. And Texas Southern Tigers, with that close overtime loss, they stay in the shouting distance as they have 131 points looking on the outside, looking in. I started with you, Mike, last time. I'm going to go to you, Charles. What are your thoughts?
First and foremost, kudos to Florida A&M. They knocked off Jackson State, knocked off 19-game swag winning streak, and they did it in
They knocked off the bullies, Charles.
Yeah,
Jackson State was the bullies of the swag.
Very much in impressive fashion. Can't say enough about Willie Simmons. They pounded Jackson State from the jump, and just as we talked about Jackson State pounding South Carolina State along the line of scrimmage in week 0, bam, you turn around and did it to them. So you take your hat off to them. They got a win that they needed to get over this Jackson State hump. And I think more importantly, the fan base needed that win over Jackson State. So you take your hat off to them. Hampton, very impressive. They're SWAC killers. I don't know when the last time Hampton has lost to a SWAC team. So, they probably, as they get in the conference play, reality sets in. But right now, that they take the SWAC to the woodshed. So impressive win by Hampton over Grambling. And you can't say enough about North Carolina Central. I mentioned this Sunday. Good teams do dominant things, and they did it this past weekend in terms of what they were able to do. So I'm looking forward to this Central and A&T matchup this upcoming weekend.
When you talk about Hampton, they like to take the MEAC to the woodshed as well. They just get it done against HBCU programs. It's like they stick out their chest.
Yeah.
And conference play is different, something else. But got a couple of more MEAC this weekend, and that's going to be against the Coastal as well, formerly known as the Colonial. So we'll see what that means. You did get the victory by Morgan State over Richmond, so that's a good way to start the Coastal. We'll see what that means as we got that at some big matchups as well. But let me turn it over to Mike and see what he has to say as I purposely pushed him to the backside since he wasn't too nice to me on the mid-major. Let's see if he can be more kind at this time before I take the mic.
Well, actually, I you know what? I can't say anything about this. It's pretty good in week one.
About time.
You know, but do you know why? Because at first I said, North Carolina Central. You know, to me, the more impressive win was Morgan State over Rich. Not because they're PW, because they're ranked. To me, that was a more impressive win. But when you're Central, you're Big Daddy at the top of the hill. You move to number 18 in the so no issues with there. And for that FAMU, what's that? What's that off my shoulder? What's that off my back? That monkey. That monkey is.
That's true.
Finally, so no issues with this poll whatsoever. A lot of press. The other one I would say is Alabama State. I know you don't like this, Doc, but man, I saw that game. You talking about the eye test? I know you don't like that term. I know you saw it too, CB. That defense for Alabama State. Woo!
Can they get any offense? That's the question.
That's right. That's the only question. So,
they travel to Tallahassee in a couple of weeks.
We gonna see.
We gonna see.
And we gonna see.
We gonna see.
Yeah.
So we gonna see, as they say around these parts. And Mike is just dropping these gems here and there as you talk about all these different framings that he's bringing to the table. Some people listen to them, but I got you. The little black and gold on. With that being said, let's get into our last break and come back on the other side and talk about some of these major division matchups. I'm glad that y'all appreciated my rankings this week, but we're going to come back on the other side in terms of our fourth break. We'll come back with you and talk about some of these major division matchups.
Nope.
Come on, him?
Ooh, I like him.
Quick, the quicker picker-upper. Bounty picks up messes quicker, and each sheet is 2 times more absorbent, so you can use less.
He's an 8.
He's a 9.
Bounty, the quicker picker-upper.
That's a pretty tight spot.
Watch this.
Of course your Buick parks itself. That's so you.
It's just up here on the right.
Of course you know where we're going. That's so you.
Kinda got a 6th sense.
And a head-up display.
They're here.
Hit the field, warm up. You brought all these players in your Buick?
Yeah.
So you.
It is.
There's a Buick that fits your life, because at the heart of every Buick SUV is you.
If you think all pads are exactly the same, think again. This is Always Ultra Thins reinvented with the Always Triple Protection System. This pad wicks gushes 90% faster, absorbs even more so you can feel dry, and locks odors in. Rethink your pad for up to 100% leak-free and odor-free comfort with the totally reinvented Always Ultra Thins. This is always like never before.
Are you hungry for authentic Caribbean food like jerk chicken, oxtail, red snapper, shrimp, tofu, and rasta pasta? Well, find your way over to Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, 180 Auburn Avenue, right next to Royal Peacock in downtown Atlanta.
Them belly full, but we hungry.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, open daily from 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. And on Friday and Saturday, we're open till 4 a.m. Come to Mango's and put some spice in your life.
So we've got a good thing going.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, 180 Auburn Avenue, right next to Royal Peacock in downtown Atlanta. For more info or directions, call 404-698-3992 or log on to mangoscaribbeanrestaurant.com. For instant coupons, text MANGOS to 313131.
Tell your mama hungry, papa hungry, brother hungry.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, authentic Caribbean cuisines.
Compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna loud, yeah, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gonna teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop. I want to get into some of the major division games of the week, starting with this classic and independent programs. Let's start with the classic matchup. It's Memphis, Tennessee, Simmons Bank Liberty Stadium, better known as the Southern Heritage Classic. Jackson State is out. Pine Bluff is in. This is a SWAC versus now the combined Big South Conference OVC featuring Tennessee State. Saturday, September 9th, 6 p.m. It's on HBCU Go. Fascinating matchup. If we extrapolated the rankings, this would be 14 versus number 17, top 20 matchup. If you would look at it that way. Number 14, Arkansas Pine Bluff comes in at 0-1. Number 17, Tennessee State Tigers also come in at 0-1. So somebody is getting on the winning side of the ledger after this matchup. Should be fascinating when you talk about those Golden Lions. Mike, what are your thoughts in terms of this matchup here?
Well, on paper, you look at how they performed in week one. You look at Arkansas Pine Bluff. I think Mackay, what's the quarterback now? I'm sorry, my mind went blank. But the quarterback from UAPB, Mackay Hagens, he had 100 yards, give or take, passing. You really don't know what he can do. So, and then you look at on the other side, you look at the quarterback for Tennessee State, and you look at what he was or what able to do. But again, that's against Notre Dame. They played two quarterbacks, so you don't know really about the quarterback play. I'm gonna give the edge here to Tennessee State because they had a tougher schedule the first time. They do have a good rushing attack with Jalen Rouse and Jordan Gant, but you don't know what they can do because they didn't really perform well in that first game. So, but I'll give the edge to Tennessee State in this one, just for the fact that I don't know what the heck Pine Bluff can do. They got some new pieces.
You're not showing any love to your uncle's team there, man.
No, I tell Big Earl, he's like, well, what about UAPB? What about UAPB?
Charles, man, let me go over to you. Last time Arkansas Pine Bluff played Tennessee State, they went into Nashville and put that L on them.
Yeah. They went into Nashville and dropped that L on them. But I think this is a different Tennessee State team from going back to that, what was that, 2-3 years ago? Now, yep. I think this Tennessee State team, and I think Eddie George has really made this team a little bit more physical. I really took notice of them last year when they played at Jackson State. That game was a hard-fought win for Jackson State, but they didn't secure it until late in the fourth quarter. And from a physicality standpoint, they really matched up well with Jackson State. So you kind of take that into account in terms of this Tennessee State team going against another SWAC team. So I'm really looking at the line play in this game. But I like Jalen Rouse. I like what Tennessee State is able to do on the ground. I think Tennessee State will get together.
Before we get into this next matchup, let me stick with you a little bit. I want to just get your thoughts on the Southern Heritage Classic. A lot of change here. I mean, you're used to getting the second weekend, a rivalry game between these programs that goes back many years and many different ways. Coaching was going on when you really look back in the history books. And just in your thoughts of that, if it had to be another team, do you like this matchup in terms of regionality, Pine Bluff and Tennessee State?
Yeah, from a regionality standpoint, yeah. I mean, I think another team that fits the bill at least would have been Alabama A&M in terms of their proximity to Tennessee State, Nashville, and then and Memphis as well. But it's a recruiting hotbed, Memphis. So you've got a lot of eyes that will be on both teams in this game. But yeah, I'll be honest, it is different. It's different. You're used to that Tennessee State matchup, and there are so many Tennessee State grads, especially old head Tennessee State grads in Jackson, who really left and went with Big John Merritt there in the early mid '60s. A lot of individuals in Mississippi that he took with him up there to Tennessee. So you kind of miss all that. You miss the history of Jackson State, Tennessee State.
Good points. It's interesting you bring Alabama A&M because on the hardwood, at least for the men's program, they had a series and they playing back and forth. So intriguing in that perspective. Certainly would love to see a home for Tennessee State and Alabama A&M. I'm not sure that Tennessee State had in a lot of ways like to see A&M in terms of John Merritt Classic. I think A&M is not willing to go up there that time of the year. So be interesting to see if they can get that game back matched up. Alabama State would maybe intriguing, a little bit of old history in that framework. But with that being said, I want to ask you as well, Mike, what are your thoughts in terms of just this new version of the Southern Heritage Classic?
I don't know. I'm used to seeing, to me, I don't know, a prettier baby on the shelf, so to speak, without, saying too weird. You're used to seeing different types of matchups. This new matchup is to be honest, it's not as illustrious. It's not as commandeering as matchups of the past that you've seen. So I think, to be honest, quite honestly, I think it's lost some of its luster in its newer form.
Do you think they can build on that if they play this matchup a couple times? I know it's just a 2-year contract at this time. You think they play over if they extend the contract?
Yeah, it depends. It depends a lot. It depends on a lot of it is built on the matchups. And even if you take UAPB, a team like UAPB, which was really good in the last year, you gotta do they travel? Do they market well? So I think it depends on the teams and the mix of teams that you put together. It doesn't have to be the same two teams, but I think you have to look at the competition that you're bringing into Nashville or bringing into wherever, and say, is this the best matchup to draw fans from the region or outside the region? And I think you don't have that case. I think you can build upon it though, without question.
Charles, did you want to follow up on that? I saw you.
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting. I have a lot of friends in the Memphis area, and they lament the loss of Jackson State, Tennessee State, because it was a huge showcase for both school brands. And he said, Southern Heritage Classic is the reason he's at Jackson State. So I think, just from a cultural impact within Memphis, you've lost something. Definitely. I'm not sure you regain it in 2 years with the matchup of Tennessee State and UAPB, because it just doesn't have that same je ne sais quoi, if you will, as Tennessee State and Jackson State.
Nope.
Oh, he went to the SAT words. Oh my goodness. This begs for me a follow-up question.
Je ne sais quoi.
SAT words and everything.
He went to one of them little old $5 words.
Yeah, you see him do that? You see him do that on us? All right, big man on time. What about a home series with Jackson State and Tennessee State? Obviously, the new stadium is going up in Nashville. Yeah. Currently, they can play in the current stadium if they do it a couple years down the road. And then we know what Jackson State has in terms of their home stadium. Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts in terms of the kind of mending the fences and maybe seeing this game getting back together? Because the relationship was not necessarily strained between Tennessee State and Jackson State. It was more with the promoter of the Classic, of Southern Heritage Classic. Obviously, there was some feelings to some degree maybe with Tennessee State's president. But you going back to Tennessee, happened to be in Nashville, maybe that will change some things. And then coming for Jackson State. What do you think about that? And what do you think the fans would say about that, Charles?
I think the fans would love it. I mean, it's a historical matchup. And, to put it in context, it's like losing Texas, playing Texas A&M. There's something lost when, in that regard. So I'm sure those fan bases are going to love seeing each other again, because it's such a historical rivalry. And there are so many ties between Jackson, Mississippi, and Nashville, Tennessee. Current president Glenda Glover, I always laugh. She was my dean at Jackson State before she left going to Tennessee State. So you have all these ties between the two schools. A lot of people from Jackson that have gone to Tennessee State would love to see that matchup again. And both fan bases, tremendous fan bases, you would love to see.
The other thing is, if you allow me, UAPB, I've been to Memphis at least 8 times this year. And people forget how close Memphis is to that border.
Yeah.
And, if you bring a team from Arkansas like UAPB, there's no relationship like you have with Jackson State there. It's hard to replace that. You can't supplant that. UAB is good, but Jackson State, bringing up Jackson State, there's more of a tie, more of an identity, more of a cultural identity with folks, from Memphis and to Jackson State than there is, to you bringing UAPB over. So,
well, watch this tie-in I'm finna do. This next matchup is an independent matchup, and it features North Carolina A&T, which is the other independent program. Let's go to the other direction. What are your thoughts, Mike, on a matchup, not necessarily Memphis, but maybe a home and away between North Carolina A&T and Tennessee State, two of the three independent programs? Would you have an interest in seeing that?
Home and away. Yeah, I think you could pull that off home and away. I think you could. Just because of the brand identity outside of their regional area. That's different.
Yeah, Charles, since I let Mike play AD and he wants to bring out brand identity, he's going to match you in terms of not SAT words, but he's going to match you with his professor words in terms of sport management. What are your thoughts in terms of A&T Tennessee State matchup?
Yeah, he took my brand identity word. That was exactly what I was thinking. I mean, when you take a look at the brand that is North Carolina A&T and the brand that is Tennessee State, to see these two match up in any sport, whether you're talking football or basketball, that definitely, especially with the fan bases, it has to draw some interest.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Comments here. Belinda Johnson says the matchup will pick up. UAPB has a new coach, and he appears to be very energetic, no doubt.
Yes.
The showcase of the two very good teams will be good for Memphis. Good comment there. Brandon King, Tennessee State alumni, jumps in here as well and says that home and home is definitely something I would like to see. These are two teams that need to continue to play one another. So he's talking about the Jackson State-Tennessee State matchup. Edwin D. Moore comes in here and says Memphis is the city that should be Mississippi bordering Tennessee and Arkansas. Interesting thoughts in terms of that matchup. Let's turn the page and get into the independent matchup. This one is interesting because it's a rival between in-state programs. You got a number one ranked team. We had comments talking about the number one team coming to Greensboro earlier in the comment section. So that's fascinating to see people are looking at the rankings there. Some marketing can be going on. You have in East Greensboro, North Carolina, Truist Stadium, MEAC versus the Coastal, formerly known as the Colonial Athletic Association, Saturday, September the 9th, 6 p.m. This is on Flow Sports, so you have to pay to watch it on streaming. It'll be interesting to see. I might have to give it up, see if I can get my hands on it, because this is going to be a great matchup to see. Again, this is number one team, HBCU major division, is going into Greensboro, North Carolina, to face their rival. If we looked at the total rankings, I would have North Carolina A&T number 15. So North Carolina Central comes in 1-0 after defeating Winston-Salem State. North Carolina A&T Aggies lost their opener on the road. Charles, what do you say about North Carolina Central, North Carolina A&T? Can there be an upset here? Or is North Carolina Central continue to hold on to the number one rank?
All 11 guys will be in the box in this for North Carolina Central because you have to prove it to me past. That was one thing I did not see from North Carolina A&T against UAB. 16 yards ain't going to get it done. And you talking about a dynamic North Carolina Central team. Everybody is going to be at the line. And you need to probably have some fans on the line too, because you're going to have to prove it to me passing ball. I gotta see you throw the ball downfield a little bit for me to really go with the Aggies on this one. I'm going to take the Eagles. I think the Eagles are that good.
He said there'll be 11 folks plus the referees all on the line. There's no threat of the pass. Mike, you got something to add for me? You know, is there any more reason for me to get a little more excited about the Aggies?
First of all, this should have been the weekly bonus game.
On the roll.
This should have been the weekly bonus game. Serious, I'll pay to see this. But you know what? I'm with CB all the way. It's North Carolina Central. You know why? Davius Richard, 15 and 22, 240 yards. You know why? Latrell Collier had a rushing touchdown and a receiving touchdown. You know what? Quint McCall. He had 2 receptions. One. You know why? Because A&T, they got what, $150 total offense? That was it. 16 yards passing. You know why? Maybe you can throw it out because of the rivalry, but ain't that much throwing out. I'm sorry. Maybe you can throw some of that out with the rivalry because it is a rivalry. But I'm telling you, them boys from Central will be ready. They have the defense. They certainly have the offense. Let's see. I don't know what A&T can do. Beck Handler is Brick Handler. I think that's the quarterback for A&T. I got to see what he can do. He's gonna have to show us something.
I tell you what, like I said with Jackson State and FAMU, this week Central steps up in weight class. That's a rivalry game, so anything can happen. But you got to show me something in the passing game. I was really disappointed.
Yes.
Man, what is Mike talking about? I said this HBCU independent non-conference division game of the week.
No, but the next one you had game of the week bonus. This one is the ball game of the week bonus.
How about the bonus matchup? One thing I'm fascinated when you look at this matchup is, as you said, number 1 ranked team on the road. This is what it's about in terms of getting excited for a matchup. Rivalry teams are no longer in the conference, so you get it early in the season. Davis, Rich, he gets a chance to really make a statement in terms of what this looks at here. And then the MEAC has a chance to go 2-0 against the Coastal early in the season. Colonial, so fascinating.
Yeah,
I think there's about 5 matchup games this year. Some people have it going 2-2, and they had a couple of swing games. But I think a lot of folks probably had Morgan State Richmond game as a loss. So fascinating to see. Can the MEAC do puncher's weight? They took it to the chin last weekend, obviously with the loss to the CIAA, but that Morgan State win really saved them in a lot of different ways. Now they get a chance to make another statement against the Coastal. You're going to have some of those Hampton matchups. Norfolk State game we'll talk about in terms of a bonus. MEAC game is another one that you want to watch out in terms of the Coastal framework. So I'm intrigued about what that looks like, and we'll talk a little more about that on Thursday in terms of some of our conference key games between the CIAA, SIAC, MEAC, and SWAC. We'll do that on Thursday along with some other dialogue in terms of the band rankings are coming out. The band rankings are coming out. This year we'll debut. We'll do a mid-major band ranking marching sport and a major division band ranking sport. We'll do the top 7 just like we do football instead of an overall top 10. So, Charles, I see you looking up and you might be a little excited about we're splitting things up. We wanted to make sure the mid-major division marching sports get a chance to show some more love.
It hit me yesterday. The Sonic Boom has gone up against the Marching 101, the Marching 100, and then they got the Human Jukebox this weekend. You talk about it. You talk about a murderer's row, if you will, to start the season off. Yeah, if they hold that weight between all 3 of those.
Yeah. Yep, and that's nice. You talk about what they had to do football, but you talk about on the band side, the marching sport, they had to make a statement. And we'll get some rankings. Obviously, they were one of the top teams coming into the preseason. As you'd imagine, they won it last year, so the defending champions in terms of the marching sport. So it'll be interesting to see how they come out in week 1 after they have 2 contests. Unlike many teams that are not able to do week 0, the marching sports has some of these band competitions. You have the one national Battle of the Bands here in Houston, but you also have one that replaced the Battle Bands in Charlotte, where the national battle moved from Charlotte to Houston. They actually do a battle, and in that battle, they do a lot of the mid-major programs. And so there's some conversations there. There was a preseason HBCU marching sport band ranking. So we'll get that in terms of what that looks like, give you some where we go from there. And then obviously it's another chance. As remember now, we have the end of the season championship. That will be Friday of the Celebration Bowl. So we'll kind of do our rankings. That rankings will start coming out late in the season, but we'll see what we look like in terms of marching sport versus what the other band ranking is. And remember, in the marching sport, we talk about head-to-head matchups. We rank teams in terms of wins and losses. When they match up against a team, you can't just get out there and do a fan poll. You can't get out there on your own self and get graded based on how you do. We need a marching sport where they match up against each other. There's a winner and a loser. You got one winner with the football game. You got one winner in terms of marching sport. It's really nice when you take home 2 trophies, but that's not always the case, and that's what we look at for marching sport. Thank you for listening to Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Make sure you share our podcast with your friends and colleagues. I am Dr. Cavil, the Dean of HBCU Sports, from Inside the Lab in the College of HBCU Sports with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Again, we want to thank you for listening to Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop every Tuesday and Thursday right here at 6 o'clock. So look for us on Thursday as we break down and take you inside some other games of the week, and we look at the poll rankings for the marching sport. Follow me, Dr. Cavil. That's DrKNYATTACAVIL on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Inside the HBCU Sports Lab 1 on Twitter. Facebook and YouTube is Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Dream big, continue to move forward. We will talk with you soon. Charles?
Of course.
Mike?
Lecture.
Dismiss.
Edward Moore, I'm not checking.